أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Reflections on the Risale-i Nur by Bediuzzaman Said Nursi podcast series. In this episode, inshallah, we will continue to read the secrets of Basmalah, secrets of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of God, the Merciful, the Mercy Giver. This is from the second station of the 14th Flash, which Ustad Nursi placed right after the first word in his book, The Words. Although it belongs, it is a part of the book named Flashes, he placed this piece here because the first word is about Basmalah, and the 14th Flash, the second station of the 14th Flash, is about some of the secrets of Basmalah. We read the first secret in previous episodes, and today, inshallah, we will continue from the second secret. Bismillah. İkinci sır. The second secret. Kur'an-ı mucizül beyan, hadsiz kesreti mahlukatta tezahür eden vahidiyet içinde ukulü boğmamak için daima o vahidiyet içinde ehadiyet cilvesini gösteriyor. In order not to overwhelm minds by divine unity, and here the word is wahidiyet, which is apparent in the boundless multiplicity of creatures, the Qur'an of miraculous exposition constantly points out the manifestation of divine oneness, ahadiyat, within divine unity, wahidiyat. This, of course, is a loaded sentence. It will, inshallah, become clear. Ustad Nursi is going to provide us with metaphors to help us understand, to bring our understanding closer to the intended meaning. So let's repeat. In order not to overwhelm minds by divine unity, by wahidiyat. So wahidiyat is something that may overwhelm minds, human minds. What is it? Which is apparent in the boundless multiplicity of creatures. It is manifest, it becomes manifest in the boundless multiplicity of everything that we look around, the creatures. The manifestation of God's oneness, wahidiyat, in the multiplicity of things. We may also think of this as we mentioned in the previous episodes, in the generals. As a quick reminder, when we say tree, that is a particular in respect to living objects, animate beings. But it is a general in respect to, say, a pine tree. So there is a manifestation of God's oneness on the type of objects we call trees. And when we look from the point of view of a pine tree, that appears as wahidiyat. Right? And then it continues. The Qur'an of miraculous exposition constantly points out the manifestation of divine oneness, ahadiyat, within divine unity. And if we look at the pine tree in respect to the species of tree, the manifestation of divine unity on the pine tree is ahadiyat. I know that this is not clear yet. We are just preparing our minds to understand what is going on here. Yani, mesela, nasıl ki güneş ziyasıyla hadsiz eşyayı ihata ediyor. Okay, here is the metaphor. For example, or That is, for example, the sun encompasses numberless things with its light. Now, if you think of a sunny day and the manifestation of the sun on the surface of the earth, right? It's a very large area from the point of view of an individual human being who is standing somewhere on the face of the earth and looking around. It is a boundless area. It is beyond what the eyes of this observer can cover. The sun covers a boundless area. The light and heat and other properties of, like the magnetism of the sun, covers a boundless area on the surface of the earth. And everything on that surface is included in this. The plants, the animals, the humans, the rocks, streams of water, oceans, you name it. Everything is covered, and the light of the sun does not distinguish between them. It shines on all of them at the same time, without distinction, without privileging. Mesela nasıl ki güneş ziyasıyla hadsiz eşyayı ihata ediyor. So in the way that the sun encompasses numberless things, innumerable things with its light. Mecmu ziyasındaki güneşin zatını mülahaza etmek için gayet geniş bir tasavvur ve ihatalı bir nazar lazım olduğundan, güneşin zatını unutturmamak için her bir parlak şeyde güneşin zatını aksi vasıtasıyla gösteriyor ve her parlak şey kendi kabiliyetince güneşin cilve-i zatisiyle beraber ziyası, harareti gibi hassalarını gösteriyor ve her parlak şey güneşi bütün sıfatıyla kabiliyetine göre gösterdiği gibi güneşin ziya ve hararet ve ziyadaki elvan-ı seba gibi keyfiyatlarının her birisi dahi umum mukabilindeki şeyleri ihata ediyor. Now, this was a very long sentence. In the English translation, it is broken into smaller sentences, so it might be easier to follow, inshallah. So we are continuing with the metaphor of the sun. The sun on a sunny day, imagine, shines on the surface of the earth, and from the point of view of an observer standing somewhere, let's say at the center of that surface, it covers a boundless area and an innumerable amount of things on that surface without distinguishing, without privileging. In order to consider the sun itself in the totality of its light, a most extensive conceptual ability and comprehensive view is necessary. So the task of the individual that is standing there at the center of this surface that is covered by the light and heat and all other properties of sun is to comprehend the sun. If you think of it, he cannot raise his head and look at the sun. That's going to burn his eyes. He cannot do that. That's out of question. So how can he understand? How can he comprehend the sun then? Well, we know things by their signs. So the sun is shining on the surface of the earth. Therefore, this person can look at the surface of the earth, and by observing the impact of the sun, the manifestation of the sun, the revelation of the sun, the signs of the sun on the surface, he can try to understand. He can try to comprehend the sun. The problem is, it is a boundless area with innumerable amount of things, with an unlimited number of things that each manifest the sun, and therefore to comprehend the sun in its entirety as it shines on the surface, this person will have to keep in a sense, hold everything on which the sun shines all together in his mind and evaluate, which is impossible, which is beyond human capacity. So what is the solution then? What is a way out of this? So, lest the sun itself be forgotten, so that the sun itself is not forgotten, right? Lest the sun itself be forgotten, it is displayed in every shining object by means of its reflection. Now the problem, of course, is if this person cannot comprehend the sun in its entirety with its, let's say, person. If we imagine the sun to be a conscious being with a persona, this person will not be able to comprehend that persona. This person will not be able to comprehend the sun in its entirety. And that is a problem, because that is the task. And even worse, because he cannot comprehend the sun, this person may easily forget that the sun is there and assume that the light and heat that is on the objects are emanating from the objects themselves. Right? He does not see the source, he cannot think of the source, he cannot comprehend the source, he has no access, or he has very limited access to the source. Therefore, he will not think of the source and look at the signs and assume that the signs are the source. This is a danger. So, lest the sun itself be forgotten, what is the solution? What is the way out? It is displayed in every shining object by means of its reflection. If this person looked at a little piece of glass on the glass on the ground, or a little piece of mirror, or went by the stream and looked at each of the bubbles, each of the little waves that are passing by on the stream, or went to the ocean and looked at the face of the ocean. And there are ways to expand this to everything. Actually looked at the leaves of the trees and looked at the a piece of sand as a particle of sand, anything, he will see the sun shining on it with its image, right? It is displayed in every shining object by means of its reflection. The sun will be reflected on each and every object. On some of them, with its heat, with its light, with its image. On some of them, with its heat and a part of its light. One of the wavelengths of the spectrum of light that is emanating, right? If you look at a red object, what that red is that all of the light spectrum that's emanating from the sun comes to it. Everything is absorbed, only red is reflected back, but it still is a reflection of the sun. And in accordance with the capacity of each of those objects on which the sun is reflecting, all shining objects display the sun's qualities, such as its light and heat, together with the manifestation of its essence. Zat is the word here, as person or persona. And this is another word that we need to learn. Zat, right? That is the essence or the person of the being that we are talking about. And God has, and we can talk about the Zat, the essence of God too. And it is unknowable to us. We can know about it, but we cannot know it. Right? We know about it through God's acts and attributes and names. The revelation of His Zat through these qualities in the creation. So let's read this. And in accordance with the capacity of each, all shining objects display the sun's qualities, such as its light and heat, together with the manifestation of its essence. Right? So there is a manifestation of the sun's essence on shining objects, but that is not the same as the sun's essence. If we think of a little mirror, in the little mirror we are going to see the image of the sun, along with the heat that reflects from there, along with the light that reflects from there. We will see the image, but we cannot say that this is the sun. No, this is an image of the sun. This is a reflection of the sun. So on each object, according to its capacity, it is going to reflect the essence of the sun too. There will be a manifestation of the essence of the sun too, and we will know about that, right? And there will be a reflection of the qualities of the sun. And just as in accordance with their capacities, all lustrous objects show the sun together with all its attributes, so too do the sun's qualities, like its light and heat and the 7 colors in its light, all encompass all the things facing it. So the sun encompasses all things all together at once, and the sun also is manifest on each and every object in that surface, on each and every particular, right? The first one was a general. It is manifest on each and every particular, and that manifestation, that reflection is apparent, manifest in accordance with the capacities of the object. So the manifestation in its entirety is there. All of the qualities of the sun are concentrated and revealed on each and every object, but the manifestation of that revelation is in accordance with the capacity of the object. The mirror reflects, manifests with the light and the heat and the image, and so on and so forth. A piece of cloth that is, say, green, manifests some of the heat, and all other colors are absorbed, and it manifests the color green only, and it does not manifest the image, right? It manifests a part of the image that is apparent in the color green, right? But it is limited in its capacity to manifest when compared to a piece of mirror. And a piece of mirror is limited in its capacity when compared to the surface of the ocean, where you can have a better sense of the size of the sun that is being reflected, right? But this should not be confused. When we say size, we can only have a sense of awe from that manifestation. We cannot have an understanding of the actual size of the sun. That is not possible. Elsewhere, Ustad Nursi explains this, and he says that objects, of course, we are moving out of the metaphor gradually here. Objects in the creation can be mirrors to God in manifesting His attributes and names, qualities, and acts, and so on and so forth, but they cannot be a measure for His power, for His knowledge, for His will, for His creativity, for His beauty, right? They cannot be used to measure God, because God cannot be measured. He is infinite, right? So objects are mirrors, but not measures. There are mir'at, as he uses, but not miqyas. And just as in accordance with their capacities, all lustrous objects show the sun together with all its attributes, so too do the sun's qualities, like its light and heat and the 7 colors in its light all encompass all the things facing it. Öyle de وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى temsilde hata olmasın. Ehadiyet ve samediyet-i ilahiye her bir şeyde, hususan zihayatta, hususan insanın mahiyet aynesinde bütün esmasıyla bir cilvesi olduğu gibi vahdet ve vahidiyet cihetiyle dahi mevcudat ile alakadar her bir ismi bütün mevcudatı ihata ediyor. In the same way, and here Ustad Nursi is citing a part of a verse from the 16th chapter of the Qur'an, An-Nahl, the bee. He is citing the phrase وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, or the sentence وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, and God's is the highest similitude, or the best examples are belong to God. And this is something that he will cite many times, that is cited many times in the tradition of Islam, in the Islamic tradition, in the scholarly tradition, in the literature, Islamic literature. And what it means is that God gives the best metaphors, best examples, what it means in this context. Right? All verses of the Quran have multiple meanings and levels of meanings and so on and so forth. We are not confining the meaning of this verse to this explanation. What it means in this context, what is meant by it in this context, is that best examples, best models, best metaphors belong to God. And there is a permission, there is a ruhsa, there is a permission to use metaphors, to use examples in order to bring our understanding closer to a comprehension of, an understanding of God. We cannot arrive at, we cannot have a full comprehension of, we cannot fully comprehend God, but we can keep drawing closer to that comprehension in order to bring our comprehension closer to an understanding of God, to knowing God, right? We can use metaphors, but while doing this, we need to know, we need to understand, we need to admit in advance the principle that these are metaphors and these are not a description of the reality of it. These are in order for our minds, for our cognition to move closer to that understanding. This is not a description of reality. This is a means to have a better and better understanding of reality. And therefore we say وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, and then he adds to it, but let there be no mistake in comparison, because he's going to make a comparison. When we gave the metaphor, we talked about the sun, right? The purpose of the metaphor was to help us understand God, but we don't mean that sun is God. We don't mean that God is comparable or the sun is comparable to God in all respects. Not at all, right? God is divine and holy. He is, Subhan, he is free from all defects. All his attributes have infinite reach and capacity. So he is the infinite and we are finite, and we as finite beings cannot comprehend his infinite attributes and qualities, let alone his essence, his lot. Right? That's not possible. We are using the comparison in order to bring our minds closer to an understanding of his attributes and names and acts, and eventually his thought, without comprehension. That's why the Prophet ﷺ advised us not to think about God's essence, thought, but to think about his signs in the creation, to try to know about him from his signs in the creation. And that is what we are doing here. That is what this metaphor is teaching us, right? Remember, the person cannot lift his eyes, lift his head and eyes and look at the sun directly, that's going to burn his eyes and he will not see anything. He will become blind. He will be blinded. The person in our metaphor is looking around and trying to understand the source of all of this heat and light and so on and so forth from its manifestations. So in the same way, and God is the highest similitude, as this sentence from Surah An-Nahl B is translated, but let there be no mistake in the comparison. Okay, so let there be no mistake in comparison. We are using the comparison with these caveats. This is not a free looming comparison. It has caveats, it has limitations, and all comparisons, all metaphors we will use in order to understand concepts as we read the Risale-i Nur are subject to the same caveat. Just as divine oneness. So the word here is ahadiyat, right? Just as ahadiyat. And eternal besottedness, and this is samadiyat. And samad, of course, is the word that comes in Surah Al-Ikhlas, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ, right after the name Ahad, in this beautiful and sincere and pure description of God that is given to us in the Qur'an by God. Just as ahadiyat and samadiyat, divine oneness and eternal besottedness, and samad means the one who needs nothing and everybody is in need of. Just as divine oneness, ahadiyat, and eternal besottedness, samadiyat, have a manifestation together with all the divine names in everything, in animate creatures in particular, and especially in humankind's mirror-like essence, so too through divine unity, wahidiyat, does each of the divine names connected to beings encompass all beings. Going back to the metaphor of the sun, just as all of its attributes, its qualities are revealed on each and every object, and each and every object show those qualities in accordance with their capacities. And in the case of the manifestation of or revelation of God's attributes and names, animate objects show them better, more visibly. And Ustad here says, especially the essence of the nature of mankind is like a mirror. It provides the best manifestation, right? Just as all of these attributes and names and qualities are revealed on each and every object, and they manifest it in accordance with their capacities, right? All of them, all of those qualities, attributes, names are revealed on the entirety of creation, on the generals altogether, right? But it is difficult for us to comprehend the revelation that's manifest on the entirety of creation, because we cannot, with our senses and cognition, have all of them in our minds all at once, right? Therefore, it is made easy for us. God, out of His mercy, which will come, inshallah, God, out of His mercy, has made it easy for us by manifesting all of those qualities on each and every object to the in accordance with the capacity of those objects. It may be a bit loaded. It may be a bit difficult to comprehend all at once, but it will become clearer and clearer as we move on. And this is a very central, very foundational concept to comprehend in order to understand the notion of God's manifestation in the creation, and that is very important, because that is how we know God, and knowing God is our purpose. Knowing God is our purpose and means to fulfilling our function and obligation as slaves of God. God created us to worship Him. To worship Him, we need to know Him. The better we know Him, the better we worship Him. The more we know Him, the better we know Him, the more and better we can worship Him, and therefore fulfill the purpose of our creation. And that is where real joy, real happiness, real satisfaction is. To recap the names we have been studying, Wahidiyat and Ustad Nursi's in the meaning that Ustad Nursi is offering to us, because there are other interpretations of these names, or there are other interpretations of these connotations. In the connotation that Ustad Nursi is offering to us, Wahidiyat is the manifestation of God's names and attributes on the generals, on everything altogether, in the multiplicity of things. And Ahadiyat is His manifestation on each and every object, one by one. And in both cases, all of the names, all of the attributes are manifest. In the first one, in the case of Wahidiyat, which is manifestation in the multiplicity, if we were able to hold everything in existence, that entire multiplicity in our minds all at once, we would have a very good understanding of knowledge of God that would be as close as possible to His reality. But that's not possible. That's very difficult. Not even very difficult. It's not possible. Whereas in the case of Ahadiyat, the manifestation of all of His qualities and attributes on each and every object, that is easier to do, easier to contemplate, easier to process in our minds and observe through our senses. But there we are limited to the capacity of each and every object to manifest what is revealed on them. God reveals Himself on each and every object in His entirety, or with all of His qualities, attributes, and names, but each and every object manifests that revelation in accordance with its capacity. Therefore, each and every object is a means to knowing God, right? But we need to develop our senses, and we need to develop our minds, and we need to develop our hearts in order to read more and more of those signs and on each and every object. When fully developed, one can, so that's a possibility. When fully developed, one can infer, extract, if that's the right word to use here. Again, we think of it as a metaphor. One can extract all of those meanings from each and every object, or one can extract more and more the more one travels on the path and refines his senses and heart and mind and intellect to see those signs. İşte vahidiyet içinde ukulü boğmamak ve kalpler zat-ı akdesi unutmamak için daima vahidiyetteki sikke-i ehadiyeti nazara veriyor ki o sikkenin üç mühim ukdesini irade eden Bismillahirrahmanirrahim'dir. Thus, lest minds become overwhelmed by divine unity and hearts forget the most pure and holy essence, the Qur'an constantly puts before the eyes the stamp of divine oneness, ahadiyat, within divine unity, wahidiyat. And that is in the name of God, the Merciful, the Mercy Giver, which points out the three important points of the stamp. So, and that is that that manifestation is in the name of God. So there was a missing in the translation. So let me read it again. And that is in In the name of God, the merciful, the mercy giver. That is in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which points out the three important points of the stamp. What are the three important points? The point that relates to the name Allah, the point that relates to the name Ar-Rahman, and the point that relates to the name the mercy giver. And we covered this a little bit in the previous episode, where we studied the first secret and the second station of the 14th Flash. Let's go over this again. Thus, now this is where we are fully moving on to reality from the metaphor. Thus, lest minds become overwhelmed by divine unity, wahidiyat. The minds may become overwhelmed by wahidiyat, by the manifestation of divine oneness, divine unity in the multiplicity of things, on the generals, on everything altogether. That may be overwhelming. We may not be able to grasp all of them. We may not be able to hold everything all together in our minds. And this relates to the piece that we read in the previous episode, in which the metaphor was the merchandise of a big merchant coming to a town, to a bazaar, to a town square. If the guard is going to comprehend the belonging of all that merchandise to the merchant all together, right? What he will say, well, this cannot belong to anybody but this merchant, because he is the only one who is rich enough, wealthy enough to own such a property. And that is fine. That is Tawheed. But if a thief comes and says, you're right, this is his property, all of this pile is his property, but in the pile there is this little piece of bowl, a china bowl, that has mixed into it, that is mine. The guard, can be deceived, can be persuaded to believe that the thief is not a thief, but he actually owns the bowl, because the pile is still there. He will not feel like the pile is going away, right? But if he looks and sees the sign, the signature, the stamp, the name of the merchant, if he turns the bowl over and sees that the stamp is there and says, this bowl belongs to such and such merchant, then the thief will not be able to deceive him, because he will turn the bowl over and say, look, you are lying. Here is the name of the merchant inscribed, stamped on the bowl, right? So lest minds become overwhelmed by divine unity, by wahidiyat, and the hearts forget the most pure and holy essence, unless the hearts forget God's Zat, and that is a horrible thing. Our hearts need to be connected to God, right? The hearts find tranquility only by remembering God. This is from the Qur'an. The hearts find tranquility only by remembering God, only by the remembrance of God. But if the heart can forget God, as in the metaphor that we just gave, the person who is not able to raise his head and look at the sun directly because he will be blinded, has to comprehend the existence of the sun and its qualities from its signs in the creation. But if he cannot do that, he cannot see signs of the sun on each and every object, he may fall into a form of heedlessness, in which he will assume the source of light and heat and all other qualities and attributes that are manifest on the objects on the surface of the earth to be in those objects themselves. And he may forget the sun as a result. We do not want that. We want to know, we want to comprehend, we want to cultivate an understanding of God's divine unity as it is manifest on generals, on each and every on the multiplicity of objects, on everything altogether. Right? We want to cultivate that understanding. But because we are limited in our ability to maintain that understanding, the Qur'an constantly puts before the eyes the stamp of divine oneness, the stamp of ahadiyat within divine unity. So this is a key phrase, ahadiyat within wahidiyat. All particulars are in generals, right? Pine tree is within the type species of tree. Tree is within the general of animate beings. Animate beings are within the general of beings, right? So the manifestation of ahadiyat on the pine tree is within the manifestation of ahadiyat on the general of trees. The manifestation of the ahadiyat on the trees is within the manifestation of ahadiyat on the animate beings. The manifestation of, and you can keep going on. The manifestation of ahadiyat on a single pine tree that is standing on some mountain slope that we can point to, that we can hold, right? A particular pine tree, the manifestation of ahadiyat on that particular pine tree is within the manifestation of ahadiyat on all pine trees. This is why these are like concentric circles, as we went over while reading the first secret. The manifestation of God's name, Lafz al-Jalal, the tremendous appellation, the tremendous name of God, Allah, right, is manifest on all things, on the entire creation. And then when we move down, Ar-Rahman manifest, what do we see there? On the surface of the earth. And then Ar-Rahim manifests on the face of the nature of humankind. If you think of the humankind as a unity, and imagine a face on it, i.e. imagine its nature, its character, the character of mankind, right? The qualities of the humankind. Rahim, the mercy giver, is manifest there. So these are like concentric circles, or interwoven circles, right? It is not this is here and this is there. No, they're all everywhere, all together. What matters is from which point of view are we looking. The third mystery, the third secret, is a bit long and needs concentration to understand. We are going to be building on the meanings that we covered in the first and second secret, but it is very elaborate and long. Therefore, we will not start that now, inshallah, and we will leave that to the next episode. We will end this episode here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Just a quick note on this beautiful dua or address that I am reciting at the end of each lesson, where we say Subhanaka, we are addressing God. You are transcendent. You are above and beyond all defects and deficiencies. We are, if we happen to see any defect and deficiency and problem in the creation, that belongs either to our perception, or it is due to the limitedness of the nature of creation. That is not due to you. You are perfect. Your creation is perfect. When we see the each and every piece in the creation fit into the whole, right? So we are glorifying God. We are admitting and declaring His holiness. La ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. And we do not have any knowledge from ourselves. We do not have any knowledge unless or other than what you have taught us. We do not have any knowledge other than what you have taught us. Right? So if I'm saying anything here, if there's any good in it, it is not from me, it is from God. It is from God's revelation being sent to the Prophet ﷺ, and him passing on to his companions, and the companions passing on to people of intellect and understanding and knowledge, and then them passing on to next generation of people of understanding and intellect and knowledge, and that's we are going to now call scholars, and that being passed on to other scholars, and that being passed on to other scholars, and Ustad Nursi internalizing, digesting and internalizing that knowledge and giving it to us, offering it to us the way a sheep eats grass and then refines it to pure tasty and nutritious milk, him giving it to us. Right? If there's anything in what I read, it is in what I read, and that is emanating from, that is drawing from the well of the Qur'an. Right? That if there's anything good in this, that is the source. But I am limited, and I may be making mistakes. So if I'm saying anything that is not coming from that source, then there's a problem, because that is something that I really don't know. I stumbled and I moved on to a place where I ended up talking about what I do not know, and that is a problem. Therefore, I acknowledge at the end that whatever good there is in this, that is from God. La ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. There is no knowledge that we have other than what He has taught us. Innaka antal alimul hakim. And you are the all-knower and all-wise. You know everything, and you know what you do with hikmah, with wisdom, with a purpose. You don't do things without a purpose. You don't do things in a futile way. You don't do things for nothing. Everything you do, everything you reveal has a purpose, and that is a tremendous, that's a beautiful purpose. There is good and beauty in it. If in my limitedness I fail to convey that good and beauty, if I insert some ugliness in it, some deficiency in it, we go to the beginning and we say Subhanaka. God is free from all defects and deficiencies. If there is any defect and deficiency in what I have been articulating, that belongs to me. We glorify God, we declare His perfection, and then we say Alhamdulillah, and then we say all praise is due to God. So that is the ending, and that of course is from the Quran, from when the angels, when they saw that Adam alayhi salam was created in the way he was created, but he knew the names. This is from a qissa, a story in the Quran. This is the story of the creation of Adam alayhi salam in the Quran. When the angels saw this, at the beginning they were surprised and puzzled, maybe, that that mankind, Adam alayhi salam, was created in the way he was created. He had the capacity to do wrong, whereas angels were worshiping God, and they don't have the capacity to do wrong. So they were puzzled, and they asked God about this, and God told Adam alayhi salam, God ordered Adam alayhi salam to tell the angels the names of things, to name things, which in one interpretation points to his ability to comprehend things with the with the nature in him that has many aspects that the angels don't have, right? The angels said, okay, we do only good, but he has a larger capacity to know God and therefore to appreciate God. And we now understand the purpose. And then they say, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. So we are not challenging you, we are not questioning you, we are not criticizing you, we were just puzzled. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. We have no knowledge other than what you have taught us. You are the all-knower, you are the all-wise, all praise is due to you. And that is the end of our word. Al-Fatiha.